Hello everyone and welcome to this interview. I'm Francis Seeley and I'm from Enfield Voices and from Global Net 21. And as you know, we often do interviews like this where we talk to people who are doing interesting things or who are trying to make a difference in their locality. Today we're talking to Sharron Spice. Now Sharron is a very interesting lady because she's a filmmaker, she's a playwright, and she does write books as well. So she's a multi-talented person, but she's got these talents and she's developed the work that she does the hard way, if you like, through adversity. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that today. Now, if you're on our webinar site, please, you can type in any questions or comments on the right-hand side. Or if you're following us on Facebook, please put comments on the Facebook feed and we'll try and pick those up there. Anyhow, Sharron, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe you could start by telling us just a little bit briefly about yourself and how you came to live in Enfield.
Thank you and good evening. So I'm originally from South London, but came to live in Enfield when I was 4. So I've lived in Ponders End most of my childhood until my teens, and then I left and came back years later after I had my child, and I now reside in Edmonton.
Okay, so you live in Edmonton now, and you actually grew up in Ponders End, though, didn't you? What was it like, you know, living there?
So it's just like one big estate on Alma Road. I don't know if people know it. It's all gone now. But basically, there'd be loads of blocks of flats and 4 tower blocks. So it was an interesting place. I mean, in terms of playing and stuff, but it was always something going on around there in terms of gangs and drugs and violence and yeah, just stuff really.
So how long did you live in Ponders End before you moved out?
So I left when I was about 17 because I had to kind of like get away. I was feeling trapped on Alma Road, Ponders End, like nothing was actually happening for me there, and my home life was a bit of a disarray, and I thought, okay, maybe I need a new fresh start. So I left when I was about 16, 17.
Yeah, you said that when you were brought up, you faced a lot of problems, a lot of adversity. You faced abuse, in fact, and you said you'd be happy to talk about that because, in a way, that's led you to do the things you're doing now. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So I grew up in a household of 5, but 3 of them got put into care. So my mum was an alcoholic, and she somehow managed to keep the 2 siblings, which was myself and my little sister, but she wasn't actually capable of looking after us. And obviously it was very chaotic, you know, lack of food, lack of basic necessities, beatings, just like starvation, poverty, just like really, really bad stuff. But to me, it was, you know, a bit of the council. There was a lot of failures, basically, that I'd like to say, and I've put it all in a book.
Yeah, I mean, you wrote a book, didn't you? I guess that the book was called Cruella, I think, and it was a book that was about overcoming abuse and disadvantage. And did you write it as a sort of form of therapy to help you get out of the cul-de-sac you found yourself?
So I was undiagnosed with PTSD trauma and anxiety, but this stuff was happening to me and I couldn't explain it. But every time I went to Ponders End on Alma Road, like this strange stuff would happen to me, happen to my throat. I'd get like panic attacks, and I just thought it was really, really strange. So I sought some counselling after having a word with my doctor, and then I got the counselling, and then I went through the process, and then it led me back to obviously my experiences at home was childhood trauma, or now known as ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, which can go on into your adult life. So I had it quite severe. I mean, I wouldn't be able to talk about it before, and then my throat would get choked up, like it was physical as well as emotional.
Well, you sound like you're a very strong person in the sense you got out of it. And did the book help you do that?
Yes, so after having counselling and I confirmed with my counsellor, it was Enfield actually, really, really good services. I definitely recommend them. And the counsellor I had, she was just so amazing. Like she's the one who said to me, Sharron, it's not your fault. Nothing happened to you. That was your fault. Stop blaming yourself. And then she said, why don't you write a book? And I was like, okay, maybe I'll write a book. And then it took me 2 years to write, and it was cathartic, but it was hard as well because I had to go through the same pain. But then I had the counselling running alongside it, and I don't think I would have been able to write the book and do the counselling or vice versa if they weren't together. If that makes sense?
Oh yeah, it does make sense because you had that support to do that, and it was great the story of the counsellor who actually encouraged you to do that in the first place. I mean, did you ever think of being a writer before? Was there any other reason for writing a book, or did this sort of come as a surprise to you? I can write. So
strangely enough, in the book I talk about never wanting to go home. So my place of sanctuary was the library in Ponders End. So I would just stay there for hours and read and read and read. So I think that, yeah, just get lost in books, and for a little while I wouldn't be where I was actually living and experiencing what I was experiencing. So I think I've just had it in me, but it's just started coming out later. So I just write about stuff that's happening or that's current or that's affecting me.
Well, obviously you were interested in books and you were a literary person, but I noticed that in the book you wrote, you didn't go by your name, you called it S.K. Hope. Was there any reason for using a pseudonym? Was it to have an anonymity at that time because you didn't want people to know who was, going through this experience?
Yes and no, and in the book I talk about that as well. So there's basically 5 of us, siblings, but my mum only married one of them. And so 5 children, 4 dads. And we obviously couldn't have different surnames. So my original surname, which my mum gave to me, is not my surname. So the surname on the book is my dad's surname, but he's passed.
Ah, okay. Well, that explains that. But it's good you had that. I mean, you said, and you obviously put it in your book, but you said the background you came through, leaves scars for anyone. I mean, how do you think that treatment you had, those scars affected you later on in life? Are they still affecting you now, or is this something you're gradually working through?
So I've had the counselling. So basically, I'm detached from it emotionally. Before I was connected to it emotionally, the mention of my mum, the mention of Amorose, so I'm detached from it. But what I feel I'm affected by and what has really impacted me is relationships. Like, obviously, I have an issue with trust. Just little things like I've always got to have a hallway light on because in our house, the electricity used to go, and then I was afraid of the dark. So now I have to have a light on in my house. So it's just things like that, really. What else? Little things like, because we never had no food at home, I will buy loads of food just in case I never have it, or that I don't have it, but it might go off. But it's just to have it, just in case I need it. But sometimes I don't need it, but I just get it. And that's because of a lack of food and stuff.
And you said you left home when you were 17. I mean, did you have anywhere to go, or was this a sort of jump in the dark?
So, 17, I was at home with my mum and my little sister, but I wasn't getting a chance to be a teenager. So I was I was rearing my little sister and not living life as a teenager. And it was conflicting me, and then I got a boyfriend and he didn't really like what was going on, and then my mum got really upset and she was like, okay, it's either him or me, choose. So I chose and I left. So
you moved in with your boyfriend, and then did your life change for you? Were you free to do the sort of creative things that you wanted?
No, because then I went through a whole set of out of the frying pan into the fire. Then I ended up in domestic violence, and an emotional roller coaster. So yeah, I went out of one frying pan into another, because then I later found out that obviously he had problems with himself and alcohol and problem people, and then domestic violence. So I experienced that, and then I ended up leaving, going into a refuge. So I've had a bit of a rough time.
Okay, so you went into a refuge, but when did you start? At what stage did you get your life together so that you started doing all the other wonderful things that you're doing now?
Probably after I had my son, because then I had to think not just about myself, I had to think of my child. So I got a job, and then I went to college, and then just looking after him really, and it enabled me to work, and then I always wanted to be an actor since I was 9. So after working a little while, I realised that I should try, and then I did. And
so did you become an actor? Did you actually go on the stage?
Yeah, so basically I signed up to an agency, and my first role actually was in James Bond, Die Another Day, and I played a Cuban cigar roller. It was amazing, and I met Pierce Brosnan, and then after that I was like, okay, I think I can keep trying and see what happens. And so yeah, so as well as writing in that, I'm also an actor, actress, whatever your preference is.
So did your James Bond film give you instant fame?
No, I mean, I'm only in the corner. If you blink, you miss me. But it was a start. You've got to start somewhere. And then from there, I've done loads of stuff. Like I was in Bad Girls. But then I just kept on getting blocked. Like I could only get certain types of roles. So then that's when I decided to write my own play, which was a comedy. So I think I was in the end forced to write, because I wasn't getting a vast range of diverse roles.
But what made you decide you wanted to write plays rather than write another book?
I don't know. I'm a youth worker, so I wrote a play for young people. It was a panto called Aladdin in the End, and I think it was just from there. I thought I've written a children's play, a panto. I think I can probably write an adult play.
But didn't you write an adult play as well? I mean, didn't you write a play? What was it called? Metamorphosis. I can't pronounce it, but it was something like that.
The Metamorphosis.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sounds a bit like Franz Capra sort of stuff. And you know, I noticed in the promotion it says rum punch, sexy lingerie, and unmistakable Caribbean relish. You've got to tell us about that.
So I wanted to write something, and so I decided to write a comedy, and it's about a group of women, 6 women that all come together in a lingerie setting, and just their journey. I mean, if ladies have been to an summer's party, they'll know what it's like. There's just like random people, different females that you'd never really interact with, and we're all put in this room and we're looking at lingerie and other naughty stuff. And it's just each female character has their own journey, and it's done with farce. So my inspiration is Lenny Henry, the Real McCoy, Desmond, French and Saunders, Victoria Wood. That's my kind of like genre. It's kind of like that vibe with a little bit of LOLO in it. Just, yeah, I love comedy.
So, you know, how was that received when the audience saw it?
So, because it's a very different play and nobody really knows what to expect, it done really well. So I was able to take it to Edinburgh for 3 years in a row. And it's still touring now. My overall objective is to get it in central London, just somebody to take it for like a week or 2 in central London and get paid.
So, I mean, you didn't get money out of this, basically. You did it for love.
I did it, yeah. Unless you make it, you have to love it, because it's very hard. You know, the gigs are hard, tours are hard, so poorly paid. But it's in that hope that somebody will see your talent and something good will happen from it.
So did anyone see it and come to you and say, I think that's great, we might be able to do something?
So yeah, we've had, it's been majority of the places in London. It's in West End now. It's at the Tristan Bates Theatre for one day, and there's a couple of theatres that are looking at it. So it's all positive.
Well, that's great. It's on May the 16th, isn't it, when it's on?
It's Monday the 13th of May.
Ah, 13th. Yeah. Okay, so if anybody wants to see it, they go where? So
they can either go to the Tristan Bates Theatre or look online. You can pay at the door. It's £10, but it's a scream. Honestly, I mean, it's laugh out loud funny, and I think it's an original comedy. It's not crude. It's not bridesmaids. It's just good old-fashioned comedy, and I think we've kind of lost that era.
But you've moved on from comedy now, in a way, haven't you? You've just about to write, or you've written a play. You've written it, actually, The Perils of Universal Credit, which is being performed, is that right, in this coming June in the Bernie Grant Centre. I mean, why did you choose to do that? Okay, so last year, I've always temped. So I was temping in Chancery Lane, I temp as a barrister's clerk, I temp as a corporate receptionist. Like, I always temp and work in central London. That's what I do. And then contract finished, and I started to see and notice that the work wasn't coming as quickly as it used to, and the interviews are getting a bit harder. And I was like, okay, for the first time, wow, I don't have a job. And then I was like, okay, I'll jump on Universal Credit. I'll get a job in 3 months. I'll get a job in 2 weeks. I'll be all right. And the journey the experience is so horrific that I cannot explain to anybody. It's one of those things you have to go through it to understand what I'm talking about. And it was so bad that I thought, you know what, I have to put this out here. I need to educate, I need to raise awareness, and people that are worried about Universal Credit, they should be. So tell us about the experience you went through on Universal Credit. I mean, what was so awful about it? What sort of plight did it put you into?
Destitution, debt, I owe my friends money, basic necessities I didn't have, because what they do, your last wage, so obviously I was on a good salary, they use that against you. So I waited 5 weeks, and then my first payment from them was £70. £70 has got to pay my rent, it's got to pay for food, my bills, everything. £70 after 5 weeks. They offer you the advance loan, which is fine, but you have to pay it back. And they start deducting it literally straight away. So you borrow it 1 week, and then your next payment, they start deducting. So then you're already short again. And the money just isn't enough to live on. I'm talking not enough to pay for food. Or you got to go, right, okay, what am I doing? Pay the rent or pay my phone bill? But I can't do both. Then you pay the rent, and then you're left with absolutely nothing. And then you're relying on friends and family. I mean, I exhausted all my friends and family, and thank God they were in a position to help me, because I don't know what I would have done. I was at my wit's end, and I didn't understand why, because I'm a working person, I pay my taxes, and I didn't understand the money's not enough for you to live on. That's what my issue with Universal Credit is. It's not enough, and it puts you in so much debt, and it's bad for your mental health too.
Yeah, I know many people are suffering mental health problems because of it. I mean, was it because you had to wait 5 or 6 weeks before you got the money? Was it because of sanctions at all? Or was it because it's just not enough to cover living?
It's just not enough. I mean, I get the whole idea, 6 benefits into one. Great idea. I support that. But it's actually the implementation and the skimming, the cuts, what they've cut, and the fact that the benefits has been frozen. It's just not enough to live on. And you know, what hurt me as well is that a year before that, when I started hearing the stories about Universal Credit, I was like, no, it can't be that bad. Surely LBC Radio, Mr. O'Brien was talking about it all the time, and there's people talking these horror stories. I was like, okay, maybe it is, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I mean, there was days when I didn't have electricity or food. I went without food. In 2019, 18, how can people be going without food? And this is the 5th richest country in the world.
So what are you trying to show in the play? Are you trying to show the plight you've gone through, or are you taking people through a journey of several people that are suffering in the same way that you have?
So after that gentleman died, we had a gentleman that lived in Enfield. He died. Oh, yeah. He killed himself or done something. But anyway, this was just before Christmas, and I just jumped onto Universal Credit, and I was like, oh my God, that was so bad. He basically was just tired and fed up of waiting. I think he committed suicide or whatever, waiting to find out the information. And then I thought, okay, I've got to write it. And then I started researching it and listening to all these stories, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And, you know, it affected my mental health, and, you know, it was just so awful. And it just needs to create change. I'm hoping the play will create change. It talks about my journey, but it also talks about other people's journeys too. And it's an educational tool for those that are not aware of this benefit and how punitive it is.
So who have you got? What sort of theatre company have you got to do this with you?
So I have a illicit theatre company, which is my own. And basically we're like a little repertory theatre. So we do my plays, and then we also do other plays, like we do Shakespeare. So it's a free-hander. So it's me, I'm in it, my colleague, another gentleman called Kofi, and another actress. We work together on other productions anyway. And it just shows how also Brexit has affected the job market and the economy, with loads of people losing their jobs, and they're going to have to go onto Universal Credit and stuff like that.
So you're hoping that a lot of people see this play. I mean, it's at the Bernie Grant Centre, but you're hoping that we can, you know, see it in Enfield as well. I mean, you're thinking of the Dugdale Centre, maybe
yes.
In Enfield. What are your plans on that?
So we're going to debut it in the Bernie Grant Centre, because that's one of the boroughs that has a high percentage of people on the benefits. I think Enfield is a borough as well. And then I'm hoping I can get it to there and then just tour it around, because I think it's actually quite educational, and a lot of people don't really know about Universal Credit and how it's all worked out and what it actually does to people. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but a gentleman just the other day, not in London, but he was in his 50s, he killed himself and left a note blaming Universal Credit.
Yeah, I mean, I know that many people have committed suicide because of that. I mean, this sounds the sort of play that's really educational. You could take round to youth centres and schools and different places. Have you considered that at all?
Yes, I would like to. I'm thinking about getting some funding and stuff sorted out once it's debuted. I mean, we've got some interest already from a couple of newspapers and staff and a couple of barristers, so we'll see what happens. It is very current, and I think it needs to be, it's a story that needs to be told, and people need to, well, the government needs to stop trying to, I don't know, put their head in the sand and admit that it doesn't work. It's not fit for purpose.
No, I think a lot of people will agree with you. I mean, it's a play that you could take around in the sense you don't need a set, do you? I mean, it's something you can adapt to wherever you're actually, you know, performing it.
Yeah, so it's very minimal. I would actually like to take it to Edinburgh next year, because Edinburgh also has a high problem with Universal Credit, and a lot of the issues around people with addiction being given Universal Credit. And their rent not being automatically removed. So then what happens, because they've got an addiction, they're obviously not going to spend money on rent, and then they're finding themselves homeless. So there's that. So I'd like to take it there. And it's a minimal set. Basically, there's 3 different 3 different areas within the stage area. There's a job centre, there's a gym, there's a pawn shop, as in PAWN.
We got that.
Yeah, just in case people thought, where is she going with this? And her house, yeah. So very minimal.
Well, that sounds all great, but you want to do other things as well. I think you mentioned to me something about knife crime, and you'd love to do something on that. Is that right?
Yes. So basically, I am a campaigner against knife crime. I lost my cousin 10 years ago. He got stabbed in Edmonton, unfortunately, and he weren't in a gang. He weren't a drug dealer. It just happened to be an argument that took place in his presence. And then later on, the gentleman came back and they couldn't find the person they were arguing, but they saw him. And so he got stabbed, unfortunately, past 10 years ago. So since then, I've been trying to campaign and work with young people, trying to lobby the government, saying that they need to do more, but obviously cuts to services again, youth services. I've just started engaging with Enfield Youth Service, so I'm hoping to do a little bit of work with them. And yeah, this knife crime issue is a bit out of control. And I live in the borough of Edmonton, and we have 3 gangs where I live. So I'm at the Green. You've got 1 on Bounces Road. You've got maybe 2 on Bounces Road, and you've got 1 near Jubilee Park. And they're the ones that I know about.
Gosh, so you're heavily involved in that. In a way, you're becoming a campaigning playwright, aren't you?
All right, that sounds nice, actually. Campaigning playwright. I tell you who I do like. The gentleman that wrote I, Blake.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone's seen that, and it's an incredible, drama, and that's the model you'd like to follow, is it?
Yeah. So I invited him to come and see the play, but he can't make it in those dates. But he said I should keep in contact with him, and then hopefully he'll get to see if it goes somewhere else. So that was really nice.
So you would like to be a young David Loach?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, you're starting really well, so you're doing a great job, and you're also going into filmmaking, aren't you? I mean, you're writing, playwright, acting, and you're also making films. So
with the film, this Universal Credit play, I want to then make it into a short film, because not everybody likes this, and maybe some people can't get there. But again, I think it's education and raising awareness. So that's my next plan, is to also make it into a film, a short.
No, I think that's your phone, but never mind.
That's me.
Yeah, okay, don't worry. It always happens in a webinar. It's part of the fun of doing it. So, that's okay. All right, so, you sort of got your life planned out in a way, haven't you? All the things you want to do. Are you sort of politically involved and vote at all?
Say that again?
Are you politically involved and do you vote?
So right now I am politically homeless. That's how I feel. I feel I cannot vote for neither party. Conservatives, I've never, in my household, that was one thing, you was always Labour, so I have always been Labour. And I always usually vote, but it's going to be hard for me this year. I think I'm going to have to put a pencil or a pen through it and just write Brexit, what's going on or something. I don't know. But I feel that I can't vote. Sorry.
Well, don't be sorry, because you're doing, you're helping to make change better than many politicians are. I mean, what you're doing, being a campaigning playwright that you are, I mean, you're doing a fantastic job, aren't you? And I mean, you're reaching a lot of people.
I'm trying. All I can do is try. There's nothing much more I can do. At least if I'm trying, I'm doing.
No, well, that's great. Well, we've come to the end of the time now, but I mean, if people wanted to contact you to find out more about what you're doing, to give you any help of any kind, or to be involved in any way, how do they make contact with you?
Okay, so you can add me on Facebook, which is Sharron Spice. I'm on Twitter, I'm on most social networks, and there's a website out there as well.
And you'll be happy if people did contact you and show
yeah,
you
if you need to speak to me about anything. I mean, there was a lady that wanted to speak, that was on the webinar to do with Universal Credit. I hope that this has helped her. And also I've got a few links on Facebook that can help with Universal Credit, as in it's like a help page, a help and advice page for people that are suffering Universal Credit. They all get together and support each other.
Okay, so you've got that help group. That's great. I mean, we've brought up people who are interested about, you know, whether it's, you know, how young people react to this, and I'm sure they will, especially if you're doing things in knife crime. And Carol Stanley, who's on here, has talked about maybe, you know, maybe Talkies, the film group, the film cinema group in Palmer's Green, which regularly puts on different films, would be interested in the film you're doing, and certainly would talk to them and see if they'd be interested in doing it. But, you know, that's been a really interesting interview, because you have been on a journey, you know, from really difficult times to a time when you've really found yourself, or almost found yourself. You're still finding yourself. You're writing plays, you're making films. It's part of that process of finding yourself, as we all do in our own way. And I think people will be really intrigued in what you've done. And I hope you have a really successful future, and I'm sure you will. So thank you, Sharron, for doing this interview. And I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in watching it. So thank you.
So thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone else, and I've got a comp for you anyway, Francis. Come see the play.
Okay, that's an offer I could not resist. Okay, all right. Thanks, then, Sharron, and you know, we'll end the webinar now. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye.